Local Justice, presented by Elrod Bobe Law Firm, serving our community since 1980. Here's your host, Attorney Ben Leader.
Welcome back to Local Justice. I'm Ben Leader, and today we're joined by someone who has dedicated nearly 3 decades to serving the people of York County. Captain Lee Stoneburner has served with the York County Sheriff's Office for 27 years, and he currently leads the Administrative Services Division. This is a division that plays a critical role in training, accountability, officer wellness, and many of the behind-the-scenes functions that help keep the entire agency running smoothly and keep everybody safe in our community. Captain Stoneburner, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for having us.
I would love to kind of just start at the beginning and you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you were born and raised and what ultimately led you to the path of law enforcement.
Okay. Well, I actually grew up across the state line in Gastonia, North Carolina, is where I went to high school and junior high and that sort of stuff. You know, my father was in law enforcement, so I'm second generation, so that's where my interest came up. And even in high school, you know, I was part of, growing up in Gastonia, the Gastonia Police Department had a Police Explorer post. So I grew up and I was in the Police Explorer post, and I did that. And eventually went to work at Carowinds Security, did Carowinds Security, and there is where I came across some great people at the Sheriff's Office. And, you know, I remember people, you know, Deputy W.J. Miller and Mike Buckaloo and some of those that would come to the park and respond to calls and talk to me and things like that. They really, you know, the way they presented themselves, you know, like W.J., his car was always spotless, his uniform was always, and I was like, that's what I want to be right there, you know. And so those type people laid the foundation for me actually picking up and moving to South Carolina and moving into York County just to come to work for the Sheriff's Office and be a part of what everybody said was going to happen, which is exactly what happened with the county growing and the agency growing and becoming progressive and all of those things which they said was going to happen. I got to be a part of it as it did.
That's great. Well, it sounds like it was always in your blood. From a young age, you knew that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, there was never a doubt what I was going to do, never.
And so would that have been Sheriff Bruce Bryant that you originally came to work for?
Yes, it was. It was Sheriff Bryant was the first sheriff that I worked for, and was a great man to work under. Did a lot of great things. You know, we just put him in our Hall of Fame at the Sheriff's Office for a lot of the things he did as far as moving us forward in the technology. You know, a lot of people don't realize when I first started taking calls in this county, my walkie-talkie didn't even get out in areas. Like there were places that you'd do a traffic stop and you couldn't tell anybody you were doing it. You just did it. And so we went from that to radio system that there's almost nowhere you can't pick up.
Right.
And so our safety was crucial to him. And so, and being able to do our jobs and protect the people here was important. And so little things like that, the computers coming in, district offices coming in and some of that stuff. So that was really, to be honest, it was fun to see. It was neat to see it come in, and, you know, now our young officers love it even more than I do. Like sometimes the technology, I'm like, hold up. But for them, they're all about it. So
that's right. 27 years ago, do you any rough ballpark of how big the department was at that time when you joined versus now?
I can tell you we had 3 supervisors on a shift, and I think we're right around, so we had like 12. So
wow.
It was like we had 100 was our lieutenant, and then we were going to 111 and 112s were being added when I got there.
Wow.
So it was, you know, we were running, there were some nights, you know, people before me will talk about running this county with 2 or 3 a night, but for us, you know, you could get down to have maybe 6 deputies and then supervisors, 7 with people being out and training and that sort of thing. So,
and now how many employees in total?
yeah, now you got, you know, 20 on a shift. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So you've seen a lot of growth in conjunction with the growth of York County too.
Absolutely, yeah.
What were the early years like as a deputy here, as a young deputy where obviously y'all were covering a lot of ground with limited staff, probably limited resources back then as well.
It was still a good life. I mean, it was fun. You put a lot of miles on your car. You had a lot of area to patrol. There was no downtime. I mean, you always had somewhere to be, and even if you didn't have a call for service right that minute, you had a neighborhood that needed checked, or you had a boat landing that needed checked, or a shopping center, or a school. I mean, you had so many properties. You know, some of the property checks you had, the list was a mile long. So in between doing other stuff, you're trying to hit all of those to make sure nobody was breaking in, nothing that didn't need to happen wasn't taking place. And so you're doing all of that, and you know, working with the other members on the shift, because you're covering each other and backing each other up. And probably one of the things that I picked up on really quick was how good the relationship was between us and all the municipalities. And so there was many a days I would go to a call, and another deputy, you know, I'd had the Fort Mill district at that time, and my backup may be coming from Rock Hill somewhere. And so either Fort Mill City, TGK, Highway Patrol, I've had state transport police back me up on calls, and that's what I realized really quick, was that the relationship amongst all the law enforcement agencies here was something I'd never remember seeing. And to be able to go and get on the radio and sometimes go to a call and you'd already see the other ones getting close because they knew you were going to ask.
That's
and
right.
So when you do ask for the help, they're already right there because they heard the call come out and they knew you were going to need it, because they knew, you know, there's either one or maybe just two of you up in the area. And even if there was two cars, when we got two cars in Fort Mill, if one was on Carowinds Boulevard and you were off Dobie's Bridge Road and you needed that backup, that was still a long haul for the other car to get to you. So Fort Mill would be a lot quicker, and so they were always willing to do that.
It's been very evident to me just how good the collaboration is amongst all the various agencies,
Absolutely.
city, municipalities. It seems like everybody is kind of walking in stride with each other, and whether it's the multi-jurisdictional drug unit or things like you mentioned, that,
Right.
And that's not always the case with law enforcement agencies. I don't
Right.
think people realize that how lucky we are in York County to have that collaboration.
It is a blessing to our people as to how well law enforcement works together here, and all, even EMS, everybody, fire. It's amazing what a team effort it truly is.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick break from our sponsors, and then I want to dive deeper into your role specifically and let the viewers hear a little bit more about the administrative side of things that
Sure.
typically are behind the scenes but involve quite a lot. So
Right.
appreciate your time, and to the viewers, we'll be right back with more Local Justice with Captain Stoneburner here shortly. Thank you for tuning in. After a car accident, everything feels overwhelming. Your injuries, your job, the insurance companies contacting you before you even understand what happened. And you deserve someone who knows how to navigate these situations. A law firm who has handled thousands of injury cases across our region. Elrod Pope has been helping injured people for more than 45 years. If you have been hurt, call Elrod Pope. We will help you get back on your feet.
We know the type. You like to start early, finish late, make lemon squares, and make payments to the college fund from anywhere in the house. We know you rely on Comporium for the things you rely on most, like a view of the backyard. That's just a bunny, and hundreds of channels to watch, whenever you want. So you may think of us as just your internet company, but we're more like the I didn't know they could do all that company. Comporium, always ready.
Coke Zero is now Coke Zero Sugar, with great Coke taste. Some people were excited to hear the news, some were skeptical. So we're not gonna have the star of the show you're watching come out and say, "You'll love it." No special jingle written by this week's hottest pop star. No famous internet celebs who happen to be holding the label just so. Okay, maybe just one little pour shot. The only thing that will make you believe Coke Zero Sugar has great Coke taste is trying it yourself. Ice cold Coke Zero Sugar. Try one today.
Welcome back to Local Justice. I'm attorney Ben Leader with Elrod Pope Law Firm, and today I'm honored to have with us as a guest Captain Lee Stoneburner of the York County Sheriff's Office. Captain, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
Appreciate your time and your service as well. You were promoted to a captain back in 2022, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about your current role now over the administration services and what all that entails, what departments fall under that.
So the administrative services captain has, as all captains, we have a lot underneath each one of us. I have everything, you know, there's CALIA, there's polygraph, there's records division. We have the community engagement unit that's there, wellness program, training division, which is 2 facilities. I have the training center and the firing range. Both are within my division. I have a mounted patrol unit that's in the division. I've got Officer Professional Standards, which is recruiter, background investigator, internal affairs, all fall to it. And so there's a lot of different things, and then all of those touch other stuff. Like, there might be parts of finance I touch. There might be stuff with, the personnel. I spend a lot of time dealing with human resources on movement of our personnel and promotions and things, which is probably one of the things I love the most. Is I get to send out every time somebody's promoted within our agency or advances in our career advancement program. And so it's always good when you can send out something good like that, and somebody's getting a pay raise and acknowledged for the performance they've done and their dedication to the agency and the people.
Well, what you describe in my mind really sounds like the backbone of the agency. It's really interconnected with so many different other moving parts and pieces, and
Yes.
There's so much to unpack in the categories you just described. I mean, the accreditation alone, I know that y'all have the CALIA accreditation,
We
and
do.
that really is the gold standard, and that, I
Yes.
mean, that in and of itself is a big deal and kind of puts York County in rare air, and I know
Right.
that's an important part of, building the trust from an objective standpoint.
Yeah, it's really important to us to be in the CALIA and to be, have a gold accreditation, just because of what it's telling our citizens, right? We say we do things a certain way. We write policies to do things a certain way. We train to do things a certain way. And then this is our way of an outside entity comes in and looks to say, you know what, you're doing everything you're saying. And so we have people, and they look at everything from how we transport people to what we say to people to how we house paperwork to, how we hire people, how we process our promotions we talked about a minute ago.
Yeah.
All of that gets looked at. And not just the CALIA, but we're also South Carolina accredited also. So we carry 2. So we also have a group within the state of South Carolina that looks at it. Whereas normally with CALIA, there's somebody outside your state comes in and does that. They don't send, they're not going to send somebody from Rock Hill to come look at what we're doing. They send somebody from somewhere else, maybe Indiana or Kentucky or wherever it may be, and they come in and we send stuff to them ahead and they review it, then they come in, and a lot of what they're doing is they're talking to our people. They go out and they get in the patrol cars and they go talk to training and they talk to the recruiters and they have conversations with them and just to see if we're doing what we say we're doing, and we do it the way we should be doing it. And so it's really important to us that we maintain that.
Well, kudos to you and the entire department for being on top of that. I can only imagine the amount of work that it takes just to keep that going on a year-to-year basis.
It
And
is a lot.
I think it shows that y'all adapt too. I mean, if
Right.
we were doing things the same way 10 years ago, we wouldn't continue to have that accreditation each year.
That is extremely important to change as things change. And, I think if you looked back at law enforcement over time, that might be one of the weaknesses of law enforcement, is to change with the times.
Right.
And it's important that you do that and you learn from mistakes and you get better in things that you would ask of anybody else. And so
I don't know what it is about the law, but I think law firms suffer from that same problem
Right.
a lot of times, doing things the way they've always been
Sure.
done. And you got to be able to adapt and
Right.
keep up with everything. So that the accreditation is a big piece and a very important to
Right.
y'all's organization. Training is another huge role that falls
Yes, it
under
is.
you, and I think that's more important now than ever before.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about kind of the training and how many how much resources really have to go into that.
So the training unit's fun. We had a conversation yesterday with somebody from another training unit, from another agency, and one of the conversations we had was that nobody understands what goes on with training and how in depth and how much time gets put into it. We don't just do. The academy puts out training and stuff, and you have to watch the videos. You have to do recertifications on everything from radar to data masters to things of that nature. But then there's legal updates that come out, and there's law changes that come out, and different things that are coming about. Even people don't realize how often We get training on maybe new things that are available to people for mental health, so that our deputies are aware of resources available to them. And that sort of stuff is coming out that we have to watch and keep up with, so we know that we're providing the right information when we go to calls for service. And then there's things that we do internally, like we have our agency, we have monthly training. Now what that equates to is we only train while the officers are on day shift. We don't want to interrupt them while they're on night shift. Not that we don't do night training, but for the most part it's during the day. And so we do that, and that allows our officers to come in every month, and they'll get a block of 6 hours, and it might be defensive tactics, de-escalation. It might be, we just finished up with all of our training through at the EOC, where we go through some of our hazmat stuff. We go through some of our training with over the Duke Power nuclear plant, some of the stuff that goes on with it, and understanding it, and ICS, incident command, and different things. And we'll do firearms training, we'll do more legal updates, we'll do domestic violence training, and so it's just scheduled throughout the year. But last year our training unit, it was responsible for putting out, not us teaching every minute of it, but we were responsible for putting out over 20,000 hours of training.
Wow.
And that's between, also including, we have FTO training, so we're training the new deputies that are coming out. And so, there's always classes going on. We just did a radar, a speed measurement class. It's radar, LiDAR, all that. So we had agencies, not just ours, but other agencies at our training facility doing that class for several days. And so the academy came up and taught it. And so there's things like that that go on, and and that's something you have to constantly look at.
That's
and
right.
So we look at the trends, we look at good and bad of how things have happened, and how to make it better, and how to make it safer, how to be more efficient at how we handle our calls for service, making sure the officers have the correct information, the law changes, and it's ever evolving. And that's one thing about when you come into law enforcement, it's never the same. The minute you think you know something, somebody's going to write a change in it, and you got to relearn that law and understand it, and be able to, if nothing else, just be able to speak on it.
That's right, and then have that
understand
knowledge
it.
trickle down across the entire department. I've
Absolutely.
always been amazed at just how many different industries and the depth of the knowledge and training that the officers
Right.
have to have. Everything from video recording of a traffic stop, DUI
Absolutely.
type incident,
Yeah.
to I see them essentially playing the role of an attorney in a courtroom at
Right.
times too, and so they literally.
Yeah. The medical side is even, we did some of that this last month also, and we went from, we never had any medical equipment in our car other than a small first aid kit, to now we have some, supervisors have defibrillators in their vehicles. We have very extensive first aid packs where we can handle bigger wounds and tourniquets and
Wow.
things of that nature, so that we can have a better response when we get there. Where in years past, when I first came here, we didn't have that. And so I was very limited at what I could do for people when I got to a scene. Well, now if it's a car wreck or something like that, we can do a lot more than we used to, and I think we've saved a lot of lives because of it.
Wow. Well, training's something that's never can be checked off the list. It's a
Never.
constant battle, and I think it requires really special staff and team members
It does.
to execute those duties. And
absolutely
we're going to
does.
take another quick break from our sponsors, but when we return, I want to dive back into the recruiting side a little
Sure.
bit as well, and talk a little bit about that with you.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back with more local justice with Captain Stoneburner. Thank you for tuning in. I wish everyone came with a warning label, because if you could predict a car accident, you would probably stay home that day. But accidents are never planned, and the moments after are confusing. You don't need a warning label. You need a law firm who knows how to handle this. A law firm who has helped people in South Carolina through injury cases for decades. If you've been hurt, call Elrod Pope. We'll help you understand your options and get moving in the right direction.
Coke Zero is now Coke Zero Sugar, with great Coke taste. Some people were excited to hear the news, some were skeptical. So we're not going to have the star of the show you're watching come out and say, "You'll love it." No special jingle written by this week's hottest pop star. No famous internet celebs who happen to be holding the label just so. Okay, maybe just one little pour shot. The only thing that will make you believe Coke Zero Sugar has great Coke taste is trying it yourself. Ice cold Coke Zero Sugar. Try one today.
When a catastrophe hits, it can be a very stressful time for you. When you have trees on your house, when you have trees on your cars, and you don't know what to do, you call us.
We're not a 1-800 number, we're an 803 number. We've been in business for over 60 years because we take care of our clients. That means taking care of them during claim situations.
We're not 9 to 5, we're 24/7. We're gonna be there when you need us most. Gill Insurance, your local auto owner's agent. Understanding business is how we do business.
Welcome back to Local Justice. Today we've got with us Captain Lee Stoneburner with the York County Sheriff's Office. Captain, thank you again for being with us. You know, one of the things that I've always been most impressed about the York County Sheriff's Office is the culture there. The camaraderie, but really throughout multiple lines of different sheriffs, it seems like a core group has remained in place over there and has been there for quite a few years, like yourself. And in order to have that type of culture, you have to have good people. And so I want to hear a little bit about kind of the recruiting side of things and, you know, what's that like in today's environment?
Right. So, yeah, the foundation of the Sheriff's Office is investing in our people. And so, you know, our end of the day, the goal is simple. We protect the county. That's 100% what we strive to do every single day. Every minute of the day, that's all we're doing is trying to figure out how to protect this county and every person that's in it. In doing that, you have to have people. And so it's a matter of investing in the right people to do the job that we want to do. And so in that, we have a very extensive hiring process. We have what I feel the most important thing we did was we put the right people in the right places. You know, the Office of Professional Standards, which is led by Lieutenant Kelly Lovelace, there is nobody better. And so then you got Lieutenant Stephen Ramsey, who's leading our training division. Again, there's nobody better, and their sergeants that are under them are absolutely perfect for what they're doing. And so that's the first step. Then it's the thought process, and you know, Major Moore and I and Sheriff Breeden, you know, we have a simple concept of we find good people and then we'll make them into police officers. I was actually a recruiter with the Sheriff's Office at one point. When I first came in, you know, I was looking for good police officers. Well, that's very hard to do because there's nowhere to go find them,
right?
You know, and so it's like, so what do we do? Well, actually what we need is really good people, because if you have a good training division, you'll make them into good police officers. You can teach it. And so that's what we do. We look for really good people. And so in that, we have a very, very tough screening process. And so, you know, just running through some of the numbers lately, like it's right around 17% of the people who apply actually come to work for us.
Wow.
But now at the same time, when we get through that screening process, over 85% of the ones that we complete backgrounds on come to work for us. So if we get you to the background phase, you've gone through a lot just to get there. And, you know, in this background phase, you know, you're doing psychologicals, you're doing fit for duty physicals, drug screens. You know, at the very end, there's a interview with the sheriff and the major and captains, and that's where you answer questions on the entire background process that's gone over 8 weeks, you know, in the investigations phase. And so it's a lot to make sure we find those good people. And on the back end of that, if you find the good people and you train them right, then on the internal affairs side, you'll have very few investigations, which we do. We have very few. And so it's finding the right people, teaching them the right way, having that constant contact with them, and then giving them the equipment, giving them the knowledge, giving them the trust. You got to trust them. And let them have their confidence. And when they take that confidence out, they're going to do our mission, which is protecting the people. And so it is lengthy, it is tough. But when you come to work here, you know every deputy in every car, every man and woman is at that same level of excellence. And then we just work off the concept of every day we try to be better.
Well, that doesn't happen by chance. Y'all are intentional about it, and having that culture in place. You can feel the energy, from the outside looking in, and so y'all have got a great thing going, and having great people is a big part of that. So kudos to you for that as well. I feel compelled to mention a little bit about our personal connection since you're on the show. We haven't spent a lot of time together, but your wife, Lori Lesmeister Stoneburner, actually babysat my sister and I when we were young kids and was always our favorite babysitter. And her dad, Eric Lesmeister, was a legendary educator here in York County and one of the most respected names that I hear still talked about to this day by the way he personally connected with everybody in the community. And community is a huge part of your role at the Sheriff's Office as well. And so tell us a little bit about just the importance of that community connection.
So it's a lot. It's great because I came up from somebody who was in public service, my father. Her father was in public service, and when we came together and our family, all three of our children in some way are in community service. I have one coaching collegiate soccer. I have one working for Duke Energy who's working with power and goes out on the power outages, during the winter storm, was called up and out working. And, and my daughter's now in college wanting to do special education. And so for our entire household, even Lori working in family law, I feel like my household is 100% about serving people. And so you can chase a dollar bill all you want to do. And I think when you look at the richest people in the world and how happy they are versus people who serve people, you'll find a different type of happiness.
Absolutely.
And so when we go out here and I come to talk to you about what we're doing, it's from the heart. It's not because I'm on here for sales. I truly love York County. I love protecting the county. My whole household does it in some way, shape, or form. And so it's just something that, to help carry on Eric's legacy is important to all of us. And I think that to be able to tie that in to what I do and to go out and speak to people, I speak to people a lot, and it's amazing the number of times that I get the stories about them, and whether it's Brooke, Brad, Rhonda, all of them. The entire family is just held in a special regard here. And so it's probably made it even more of an honor to do what I do because I get to not just represent my father, but I'm representing hers.
That is really powerful, and your passion and doing things for the right reason just shows. And so you can't fake that type of commitment. And so thank you for all that you've done for the last 27 years and all that you're continuing to do to help keep York County safe. We appreciate you and everybody over at the Sheriff's Office.
Absolutely. We love being here, and thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And to the viewers, thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Local Justice. Really grateful to Captain Stoneburner for his time today and sharing his insights and everything he does behind the scenes to keep all of us safe. We'll see you next time, and stay safe out there. So when a client first comes into our office, they're dealing with very painful injuries. They're trying to provide for their families at the same time. You can just see the sense of anxiety, the grief, the worry on their face as soon as they walk in the door. One of the first things we do is we try to alleviate that concern and take that weight off their shoulder and put it on our plate. We see people immediately leave here from the first consultation. I can already see a sense of relief because they know that they've got a team helping them now, and it's no longer just their problem.
What's up, Doc?
It's the 42nd Great Easter Egg Classic, Thursday, April 2nd.
It's free!
Cherry Park gates open at 2. The first of 10 exciting runs starts at 3 p.m. with 30,000 eggs and 2,000 prizes.
And meet my friend Bo Bunny.
Presented by Rock Hill PRT, the YMCA of Upper Palmetto, and your favorite OTS media stations. Go to EasterEggClassic.com for all the details. The Great Easter Egg Classic,
where every bunny is a star.
We know the type. You like to start early, finish late, make lemon squares, and make payments to the college fund from anywhere in the house. We know you rely on Comporium for the things you rely on most, like a view of the backyard. That's just a bunny, and hundreds of channels to watch, whenever you want. So you may think of us as just your internet company, but we're more like the I didn't know they could do all that company. Comporium, always ready.